SandCity Sports. Apologies in advance for the technical difficulties. And we are going to get it moving and grooving. Just got to go across the way vis-a-vis the socials. Make sure everything is good. What is going on golf courses? People we gotta chill. Gotta chill out on the golf courses. I try to check the Twitter feed, and what do I have? Got people on the golf course going toe to toe. Whatever happened to decorum? All right, IG is cooperating. Facebook was cooperating. I don't think I didn't realize this. And got the NFL preview and the EYBL championship. All right, very good. Getting our socials in order. Twitch is still there. Don't have to. All right. Don't have to amend Twitch. All right. One thing was a little bit off, so we had to get back with you. And to Chris's point, we are back. As they say, welcome to SandCity Sports, to the business. Hope everybody's weekend went well. And it's still going on the left coast, you guys. Your Sunday still quite a bit that you have the opportunity to do. East Coast kind of winding down, but still no end in sight as we're just setting sail on this episode of SandCity Sports. Really good question, Chris, about the schedule. Once the school year begins in earnest on the weekends, anytime from 7, generally like to start at 10. And then, as you can see, sometimes that gets moved back. It is what it is. And then during the week, generally start at 10 and then move forward from there. So there'll be no change once the school year starts. Sometimes, you got to go on a little bit less rest. If I take a power nap, whatever the case may be, for instance, on those Sundays, which once the school year begins in earnest, of course, the NFL season will also be kicking off, right? So that Sunday night game, I can see myself being live for the Sunday night game and then just continuing forward, or possibly starting. I wouldn't start, on the Sunday, it would be 10. And then if there's any reason I have to, anything after, you see this, see 10:30 today, it's 11:30. That's just because things had to be taken care of. Had to cross this T and dot that I. But for Sundays, I wouldn't be opposed to streaming right through the Sunday night football game to go through the day in review. And if that's not possible, then I'll start at 10. So to answer the question, pretty much the same. And it's only, that during the school year, you just have to get your rest either before or kind of after the episode and just play it, do it that way. Right. But, the long story short on this is have to make time for the passion project, have to be artistic, have to be creative, have to do those things that, keep the zest and keep right. And so once the school year starts, there's some work-life balance things to be incorporated because obviously bills have to be paid and that needs to take place. But at the same time, right, work is a means to an end, and the end is a better, more complete, more fulfilling, more uplifting life. All right. And so that's what the passion project, SandCity Sports, is going to. But solid question about the beginning of the school year. And as July moves into the final, phase, right? Teachers, we definitely say, what the heck? Wasn't it just the 4th? I felt like I had the wind at my back. And, you look up, or July is 2/3 of the way gone. What happened to it? I can tell you what happened. As far as the Cape and Islands is concerned, there's just so many great things, interesting things going on that you're just blasting through each day. Just trying to take care of business. Obviously, you got to make sure there's meetings. There's plenty of, if not 9 to 5 work, there's plenty of organizational things that take place for you, me, and everybody else. And then there's just a lot of events. Told you I'm a big Cape League fan. Community cookouts and things of that there nature. Do everything possible to be there. So summertime and the living is good. But summer is moving. All right, folks. So let's see where to start. Interesting. Looking like the NFL. Just want to. Okay. And let's start with the Open Championship, as I'm liking this report. All right. Scottie Scheffler, the American, secured the British Open Championship. Glad to see it. Final round, he locked in, got the job done. So first of all, tip of the cap, and congratulations to Scottie Scheffler on the victory. But, you always say, then there's some of the early reporting, folks. He wins his 4th major. He is number 1 player in the world, been the most consistent, got himself 4 majors. All right. But the idea of becoming a legend, now we have to dive into this story a little more deeply. He's won 2 Masters. I believe this is his 2nd Open Championship. All right. But legend after 4 majors, Come on now. So let's get Scottie Scheffler up on the screen. Wins by a comfortable 4 strokes. $17 million payday. Can't knock it. All right, but it's this question of legend that we're gonna have to unpack. So all right. So let's get Scottie up there. We got Summer League action going on. Thank you for the heads up. No, I don't need these notifications. Shout out to Kneppel, the con man. Don't know if he has a nickname. Probably heard that time and again. He's balling right now in the Summer League final. I got to get that going on as I have ESPN Plus, but I'll check the box scores up until then. Chris, the Shambo fan. Chris, interested in terms of, and I'm, like Bryson, he came to the fore in the COVID and post-COVID years. Wasn't really sure, who's this guy Bryson DeChambeau. The world shuts down for COVID. What sports were able to continue and what sports weren't able. Golf was one that powered through. A number of other sports followed suit. Bryson, power hitting. He was on a tear for a couple years and recently been competitive, but has not secured these major championships, i.e. Scottie Scheffler, who, he's stacking them up, at least one a year, if not multiples in 1 year, which I like to see. You need identifiable names, figures, people, someone to push back on. This is what we see in tennis, whether on the women's side or the men's side. Men's side has been rather stable vis-a-vis tennis. When you have the Joker, Nadal and Federer have kind of moved off into the sunset. Joker still very much in the conversation. You have Alvarado of Spain and Jannik Sinner of Italia right now coming up. So that big three, of these guys consistently being in the mix. Women's game, a little bit more fluctuation, right? Coco takes home the French Open, knocked out in the first round. Takes home the French Open, then knocked out in the first round, the very first round of Wimbledon, okay? So we're looking for, right, the Steffi Grafs. We're looking for the Martina Navratilovas. We're looking for the Venus. We're looking for the Serena. Okay, that staple, consistent. And back to golf, Scottie Scheffler is providing that over the last few years. Okay? Nonetheless, it's not Scheffler against the field by any stretch of the imagination. Yes, Rory, who I root for. Rory won the U.S. Open. I get the U.S. Hold on. No, and I'm not even in the right. So let me get the major first. All right. Let me get it right. A tradition unlike any other. Won the Masters. Player came back, had the putt to win, missed it, go to the extra hole. Rory, second shot, dead eye to the pin, converts it, wins the Masters. What I'll say about Rory, though, he won the U.S. Open a couple years back. Like Rory, said that a number of times. All right. The reason maybe I lean towards Rory more so than other Englishmen. By the way, shout out to Sting. Shout out to Englishmen in New York. I'm an alien. I'm a legal alien. I'm an Englishman in New York. Shout out to Sting. Whether it's be with the police or just on his own. Desert Rose, Englishman in New York. Stop it. Shout out to Sting. Okay? So Rory was an Englishman on Cape Cod. When he won the U.S. Open the very next day, won it on Sunday. On Monday, he was at an event at Willow Bend, which is a prestigious golf course it's like Barnstable, Mashpee. It's kind of like right on the line of Barnstable and Mashpee. But there's a number of notable golf courses on the Cape and Islands, of course. Willow Bend being in that conversation. So that was in local paper. And I said, man, Roy, I'm happy for Roy. And like that next day, he's right around the corner. Not a member at Willow Bend. No shame in that. But hey, maybe, become a member. Bucket list goals. But that was cool. But that's also my point. With Scheffler, what he is doing, which we haven't necessarily seen. And I'm wondering, is there going to be the consistency? What's the connecting point? Brooks Koepka had a run similar a couple years back where he was winning consistently, winning a major each year, winning multiple majors. But then it's been now a couple years since Brooks has got into the winner's circle. And so two things can be true at once. Thrilled for Scottie Scheffler. Huge achievement. Never want mine just winning any major. The British Open, to my mind, going over there, having to deal with the conditions, having to deal with the wind. Little bit not a little bit, just a different circumstance. You can't just go pin hunting every single hole. Depending on the year, you're going to have to factor in the elements. And obviously, it's a point of pride, just like Wimbledon, for the English competitors. We want to win our major. Since the other three, of course, are in the United States. So it's big time. But we, and when I say we, I mean I am pushing back on this idea that Scottie Scheffler has moved into like another category of golfer. Okay, when you bring that L word, that legendary word. Okay? Sometimes you got to watch out to make sure folks aren't legends in their own minds. Right? Again, other golfers, very talented, who had 1-1, 1-2, had their games together. Jordan Spieth, to me, that hits the nail on the head. Okay? Jordan Spieth was the boy wonder. Bubba. Did my heart good to see someone named Bubba win the Masters. Okay. All talented. On any given, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they can put together 4 lights out rounds and take home that championship. But combined between Scheffler, Spieth, Dusty Johnson, Bubba Watson, do they have 10 majors combined between all of them? One or two here, maybe three there. You gotta win 8, 9, 10 before we talk about legendary. I need at least 8 before you talk about legendary in golf. Okay? That shows me some longevity. Okay, clearly. The Tiger, which I always think if you've seen the movie Company Men, they call the Tiger is an activity that they do in the business world when, they're trying to beef up, trying to get more energy. Called the Tiger. Shout out to the Company Men. Solid film, indie classic. I can say that. Indie gold. But speaking of Mr. Woods and his legendary reign, particularly at its apex where he had the quote-unquote Tiger Slam, where he had every single major championship, winning the majors, just winning every single tournament. To the point where you have to say it's Tiger against the field. All due respect, I'm not seeing that in the world of golf currently. No shade on Scottie Scheffler. I'm just saying I need another 2 years of this. And another 2, 3 more majors. He's got 4. Okay? Before we're throwing around the legendary term. All right? Appreciate the fact he's from Jersey. Having been myself born in the great state. Okay, so he's lacking the U.S. Open, where his best finish is second. Took home the PGA Championship, took home the Open Championship. So he's stacking them up in one calendar year. But again, we're only taught, and I say only as if one in and of itself is not remarkable. But I need to see more. Let's take a look at the all right. This is not the list I was looking for, but it's a good list. Again, speaking of legendary, we got Scottie Scheffler on the field. Okay, and to my point. Okay, we can see Scottie. This is good art. So we're going to come over here and we're going to duplicate that art. Scottie, we'll get back to you. All right, now let's talk some turkey, folks. Let's talk turkey. Been clearly established. Respect on this man's name. He's building. He's growing. He's on the He's on the cusp of something possibly, quote unquote, legendary. But let's take a look. Okay, we got the Golden Bear at 18. What are we doing here, folks? I said 8. That would put him one ahead of Arnold Palmer. What? Sam Snead, Gary Sarazen, Bobby Jones has 7. Okay. I mean, talking about Tom, 6 golfers in history with 8 or more. Only 6? I mean, the talent at the top of the pyramid, as we could imagine, is otherworldly. 18, 15, Jack and Tiger being in a conversation all their own. Talk about Walter Hagen getting the double digits at 11. Which all begs the question. It is an engaging headline. It caused me to turn my head and look and what's going on here. But to say that Scottie Scheffler is doing legendary things after his 4th major championship, bridge too far. He wins 5. Now you're in the conversation with Byron Nelson. Okay, now you're up there with some heavyweights. He wins 6. Okay, Lee Trevino, Phil Mickelson. He wins 7. Arnold Palmer. He hits 8. And again, just seeing how hard it is at this upper level. Couple people with 5. Couple people with 6. Handful with 7. Only 1 with 8. Only 2 with 9. And then 3 in history getting the triple digits. Triple digits. Double digits. Scottie Scheffler's got work to do. And to the points that's been made, let's scroll down. We'll find a couple of these Rory with 5. Brooks, 5. Okay. Brooks took down 5 majors in 6 years. And it's now 2 going on 3 years since he's won another. Right? For 5, for Rory, you got to span of 14 years. Let's keep scrolling. Scottie's got 4 in 3 years. He's hot. Let's keep scrolling, see if we can find. This name sticks out. Hale Irwin, who, if I remember the senior PGA Tour, he was dominant. Dr. Hale Irwin. 3 majors over 16 years. Nick Price wins all of his 3 majors in a 2-year span. Takes Payne Stewart 10 years to win 3. Vijay Singh wins 3 in 6 years. It's 20 years ago. Plus, Vijay had some battles with Tiger early on in his career. My point. Harrington wins 3 in 2 years. Hasn't won another since. Spieth, a little bit closer, but wins 3 in 2-3 years, or 3 years, if I get it right. 2015, 2016, 2017. So he's got 3 years. He won 3 in that 3-year window. It's not 2, even though 17 minus 15 is 2, because you count the initial year in and of itself. Even though that major might have been towards the end of the year. Jordan Spieth has not won a major in 8 going on 9 years. From his 3 in 3 years. But Scottie Scheffler, after 4 in 3 years, is somehow a legend. Okay? Took Jack 24 years to win 18 championships. Legendary. Tiger with 15 in 12 years. Ben Hogan with 9 in 7 years. Gary Player is going to play 18. Or 19, excuse me. Win 9 in 19 years. Does this mean a drought's coming for Scottie Scheffler? Not what I'm intimating at all. All I'm saying is he needs to continue to win majors on an annual basis to get into that Big L legendary conversation. Again, all the way to the top. 24 years of competing, 18 major championships, 12 years of competing, 15 major championships. That's the legendary stuff I can get down with. I can respect. That resonates with me. Okay? You win 3 championships between 2015 and 2017 and haven't won another championship in 8+ years. You know, not that golf is not an exacting game. Demands perfection of its competitors. Unforgiving. All those things established. So we said yesterday, and we say, as was said yesterday and is said on this show, ain't nothing free in this world. It's Detective Alonzo Harris. Ain't nothing free in this world. You know, this is competition at the highest level. Scottie Scheffler is making some noise. He is in no way, shape, or form as presently constituted legendary. in golf. He's the preeminent player, which the sport needs. Somebody for people to push back on. As I find the ESPN app to see what's going on ESPN. Hearing of Summer League championships. I do remember David Duval. Shout out to David Duval. Quote-unquote Tiger's nemesis. We got a 3-point game with 9 seconds to go in Summer League. Charlotte trying to secure, as Chris said. When you've been in the basement for so long, all winning is important. Good winning. Portland as well. Seems like they've been in the basement going back to the high school draft. Charlotte and Sacramento. Let's take a look at David Duval. We'll extend some further congratulations to the man of the hour, Scottie Scheffler. I'm guessing 2 for Duval. All right, so we're into the 2s. He's not a 3. Padraig. Got to work on my pronunciations. All right, I'm still looking for Scottie Duval. David Duval. Greg Norman with 2. Won the U.S. Open twice. Talked about his Augusta meltdown. Ben Crenshaw takes the Masters twice. No other majors. I didn't realize John Daly won something other than the U.S. Open where he showed up as an unheralded face and just lit the course on fire. I thought John Daly only had the 1. Turns out he had 2. He's got a PGA championship as well. All right. Mark O'Mara, Jose, can't pronounce Jose, Ola, Ozal, Zabal. 2. Dustin Johnson, as was mentioned, 2. Colin Morikawa. I recall winning a major towards the end of the pandemic, John Rahm. Another guy that could have been the quote-unquote face of the league. Xander Schauffele. I'm looking for David Duval. Let's see it, David Duval. So Duval gets you 2. More likely 1. Okay, we know that Scottie is Let's get some clarity on David Duvall. Charlotte's up 3.5 seconds. It's game far from over. David Duvall has 2 second-place finishes at the Masters, a second-place finish at the British Open, and then he won the Open Championship, or the U.S. Open. So one major championship is now the competitor of 15. Is that what we're saying? One major, and I can stand tall with Tiger Woods of the world? No, sirree. Had to send a couple text messages. I'm reminded now. Everybody is not up and at 'em presently. So even though I do need to send a text message in order to get paid, as that's most important, it's going to have to wait until the AM. So Scottie Scheffler is balling for the time being. That's my issue with some of the pomp and circumstance surrounding him. Colin Knappel, Summer League champion. Welcome to Charlotte. Not to be pessimistic or the bearer of bad news, I'm a believer in Charles Lee, their head coach. Simply see this as a team that needs some roster construction. You got Colin Knappel and you got Brandon Miller. Brandon Miller is going to have to go down in the paint and earn his points if Knappel is going to be put in a position to be successful at the 3. LaMelo Ball, often injured, pretty good numbers, possibly and probably empty calorie stats because they're getting the doors blown off them on a nightly basis. Situation in Charlotte to me comes down to, what do I do with Lonzo Ball? Injured a good amount. And then when he gets in the games, is he doing anything that contributes to winning, or is it fantasy points? So with Charlotte, seems like they might want to try to build around young Bryson. Young Knappel. But I see, you could put Brandon Miller at the 4, Knappel at the 3, find a serviceable rim protecting, rim running center. Defensive-minded 2 guard. And then you have their fringe all-star in LaMelo. Okay, let's see. So a ways to go, but all progress is good progress. Summer League champion, how do they fare during the regular season? I don't know if there's a one-to-one comparison or indicator. Know that from Dallas' standpoint, organization is starting from scratch, ground zero, point A. And it's what to do with themselves in this coiled rebuilding state, is my understanding for Charlotte. Point taken. These are pieces. Colin Sexton, defensive-minded, tough, gritty. Bridges is just an athlete. How he plays, can hit the three, attacks the basket, jump out of the gym. Is he defending? Is he rebounding? I hope so. Knappel taking home some MVP honors. So agreed that Sexton is, with role acceptance, a Marcus Smart-like player. Very gritty, Patrick Beverly. All right, Miles Bridges had some trouble off the court. Comes back. He's done his time. If he can focus on basketball and just play basketball and leave the other stuff alone, solid. And then Spencer Dinwiddie, the ISO Joe of the NBA, given that ISO Joe is taking his talents to the big three. But Spencer Diddy, 1-4 flat. And if he's getting buckets, wonderful. If he's not getting buckets, then bring your starters back in. Don't succumb to the downfall of the Knicks. There's 2 straight episodes, folks. I did welcome everybody into SandCity Sports. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So I'm an hour better than I was yesterday, folks. I'm an hour better than I was yesterday. Time-wise. But still, 40, essentially 50 minutes into these episodes. What is going on? right, so I'm officially keeping notes. Okay. Colin Sexton, balling. Here's my. First of all, let's speak from a place of some. No, it's not speaking from some. Let's speak from uh, an empirical foundation. Empirical is just uh, academic word for evidence based. And Chris, to your point, well stated. Take a look at the roster. So we're here, 50 minutes in to got to get it going. Start that episode on the right foot. Okay, I can't share my screen because I'm currently sharing the media. Okay, let's take a look at the Hornets. Breeze around the NBA. We are taking a look at the Hornets. We're like, what the heck? I tuned in to hear about the Charlotte Hornets. They won the Summer League, folks. It's about progress over perfection. All right? A Summer League victory. Progress over perfection. Did not know that Dodgeball had an all-star event. We'll hold off. We'll hold off on the Center for Sports. X Games is going on. That's last year. See about watching some football. Okay. All right, back to it, folks. Your boy over here. It's a beautiful thing. But I'm literally gonna have to write down some production notes just to put here to check these things off. You gotta. Hey, I'm getting to that point. It is what it is. That's how I'm saying. I'm thrilled. Really great commentary in terms of talking. Got me thinking. I think I got we opened up talking about the school year and then the passion project and how those two things go together. Great question, but that got me. Teachers. I'm telling you. Have you wake up in a sweat. It's like, oh my goodness. Is it late August? What's the date? Oh yes. Like July is like a sanctuary month. Okay, we're having a conversation, sanctuary cities and all, well, not to, July is a sanctuary month for educators. It's a safe haven month. Okay, granted, I work in different capacities in education, so I still have school meetings, school obligations. July is a very important. July is particularly because August. Once you get into August, like the school year has essentially begun. Never mind the fact that if you're in certain states, i.e., Florida, Arizona, warmer states, Texas, they start the school year in August, get out in May. So that distinction. But for us in the Northeast and in New England, August, your spring sports, your fall sports get going. A lot of new folks have to get into the district and get acclimated. So August is essentially business as usual, and July is when the visioning and the foundation for the new school year is imagined and also implemented, right? So some good school questions. I said, okay, now let me get. So, all right, on paper, Pat Connaughton, big pickup, right? You see the Milwaukee connection there. Charles Lee from the Coach Bud tree. Pat Connaughton, come on down here, give, and bring good culture, good habits, leadership. Okay. Love to see Taj Gibson still hooping. Okay. In terms of the point about Charlotte's front line, big body, he's going to come in there. Certainly a Tibbs guy. He's going to rebound, do what he's got to do. I like Colt Brenner out of Creighton playing for Coach McDermott. Make noise in the Big East. A quote-unquote modern big. Right? Going to step out, shoot the three. But also get in there and get some boards. Liam McNeely, coming from the Hurley tradition. Previous to that, played with Cooper at Montvert. He's going to take in some time. Not looking for him to do big things, but he could, find his way into the rotation, i.e. a Kassan Wallace, coming from the UK tradition, that immediately, as a rookie, and then in his second year, right, Kassan Wallace, gave you impactful minutes on a championship team, to the point where Josh Giddey, and I'm pulling for Mr. Giddey to shine. That would be the, perfect player for a Brad Stevens system. He wants to shoot the three. He wants these centers that are going to stretch the floor. So, he checks all of those boxes. Crispy P's been doing that before all of this running for the hills, for the second apron that's going to just destroy the game of basketball. So solid point. He's okay. Let's keep going down. Nick Smith, young guy. He got $13 million invested in Grant Williams, who was supposed to be a culture setter. Grant was not in Boston, but Charles Lee would have some familiarity with Grant. Grant, took his talents to Dallas last year, but they would have passed, because Charles Lee comes in immediately after the season's over. Grant's still around, then Grant gets shipped down to Dallas, making $13 million. So they're looking for, again, back to Chris's point, that's well stated about Charlotte not having height. Grant Williams is supposed to be your center of the future, quote unquote. That 6'9" guy that can get down and guard those bigs and move them and outmaneuver those bigs. Where you can play Grant, William. Never mind the fact that bigs don't play back to the basket as much as they should. As much as teams like Houston, how they use Sengun to get those easy paint points. Because, to ask NBA players to play defense, oh my goodness, it's an 82-game season. Can you be expected to actually give effort defensively? Oh. I'm watching the WNBA game, the All-Star game. You notice how all these chairs now have comforters on top of the comforted, padded chair that they're sitting in? Right? Shout out to LeBron. I got my lower lumbar support here, my back support here. You know what I'm talking about? You want to make sure the chair, because you spend time. I need all this kind of support. But the NBA players have like an extra cushion on top of the chair, which is already cushioned, to give them the extra support. And it's too much to ask for defense to be played over the course of a season. Too much to to get the ball into the paint, as the Knicks did this year under the capable leadership of Tom Thibodeau, give the ball to Cat in the post. Go to work. Give me some paint points. Let's get the blood flowing, the energy moving. Rather than just sprinting to that three-point line, bombing down and sprinting back. Paint wide open, driving and kicking, passing up open shots. Okay, back to the Hornets and Grant Williams with his $13 million a year salary. He's a guy where you can go quote unquote small, put him at the 5, and because he can shoot the 3, you can still stretch the floor, and he can guard opposing bigs on the perimeter in the paint. He has Draymond characteristics. Is he Draymond? No. But coming from the tradition, playing for Rick Barnes at Tennessee, Brad Stevens drafting, he drafts well, finds these guys. With that versatility. Okay? But Grant Williams also got himself kicked off the Dallas Mavericks because he couldn't keep his mouth closed. Supposed to be an energy guy, chemistry guy, continuity guy. He's supposed to be a Caruso. Why Dallas brought him in. You want it more up? I mean, I know you want to be on a championship team and sit the pine pony? Or do you want to go into Dallas that just came from a championship and get more minutes in their system, which you should be perfect, because he's essentially a Gafford or a Lively that can shoot threes. You start Lively for the, but Lively's not stepping out to the three-point line. Grant Williams isn't taking off from the dotted and tip dunking on people. But it seemed to be a favorable match, whereas he could be out there with Luka, with Kyrie, stretch the floor, and then give you some defensive presence. But for one reason or another, he wants to be cursing out Luka Doncic in practice. Now, does Luka need some, who knows about the present, some positive, some in practice? For sure. But as the story goes, he just kept antagonizing Luka till it got to the point where Luka just said, okay, enough's enough. And Luka scored on every single possession after that. Luka just went into iridescent mode. All right, good. We want to see you do that, Luka. We want to see you have that fire on a more consistent basis. That narrative is well known. But it's how you do it, Grant Williams. You need to have a positive, i.e. Caruso, uplifting, high-fiving way of doing things. Yeah, the Phil Jackson chair. Phil needed the special chair because he had the back surgery. Now everybody's enjoying those privileges. All right, get out there and play some basketball. Everybody enjoying these privileges. It's load management nonsense. Get out there and play basketball. So, all right, if Grant Williams wants to, thank you, ESPN Bet. No, I don't. Come back. Thank you. All right, so I'm seeing you can do some things with Grant Williams, Plumlee, again, frontline player. Brandon Miller, what are we doing? Should be leading this team. Now you got Con Kneppel, so you put Brandon Miller at the 4. See, this is where I see a little bit of duplication. They're both 6'7". So one is the 3, one's going to have to be a 4. Put Brandon at the 4, Kneppel at the 3. So you got 3 guys. So Bridges, Kneppel, and Brandon Miller. Your 2, 3, and 4. It's just interchangeable, I guess. I guess you don't have like a quote unquote shooting guard. They're just interchangeable wing players. I go with Melo, Bridges, Kneppel, Miller, and Kalkbrenner. All right, Young, which there's no shame in that. The Wizards are exceedingly young. The Wizards are also a bottom feeder like the Hornets. You're paying LaMelo Ball $35 million. Miles Bridges, $27 million. Okay, so these are the. Let's take a look at these stats. Bridges leading the team, only playing 64 games. Brandon Miller only playing. See, this is tanking 101. You didn't deserve to get Cooper. You don't deserve to get Cooper. Brandon Miller only. Mark Williams, he's gone, but solid. So all of their impactful players essentially just sat out last year. LaMelo plays about half the games. Brandon, a quarter. Bridges, 2/3. Coach Lee, I'm a fan, pulling for you, right? But now in year 2, we need to get this show on the road. And you want to talk about the grime that was done in New York? Haven't forgotten about it. Not coming off of this. In terms of my coach Tom Thibodeau and how he, was treated worse than Benedict Arnold. The point with that is, so now Mike Brown is going to get Karl Anthony Towns to play defense. Mike Brown is going to make Jalen Brunson a stopper. Right? That's what's going to happen. Okay? Because the issue vis-a-vis the Knicks, and we'll come back. Right? The issue vis-a-vis the Knicks now, okay, you got the same roster with just the Knicks they're more talented. You've brought in a Jordan Clarkson. Okay? You brought in a Sibley. Right? They have McBride. They have Kolek. They have Landry Shamet. They have Campaign. Some of these guys are maybe 1 year to, but you just have, but the team had talent last year. You want to talk about Jordan Clarkson? Okay, he's a filled up guy, come off the bench. Theoretically, Landry Shamet, for me, Jordan Clarkson's better. Yes, he's better. I conceding that. But there were games where Campaign came in and cooked. There were games where Landry Shamet came in and cooked. There were games where Brunson was out and those guys got starter minutes and, we're cooking. Okay, Sexton and Dinwiddie on the second unit, that works for me. What I'm saying is that there is a black cumulus cloud. Took some meteorology classes, didn't do well, but I took them. I learned some things. It's like a part of your major. You had to take them, so learn some things. There is a cumulus cloud hovering over Charlotte Hornets organization. And it's just, they lose. I want to say that they're losers. That's not a correct statement, but there's a culture of losing. That's what I was looking for in Charlotte. It's a culture of losing there. And, I don't see LaMelo Ball chomping at the bit to change that. Backup Knicks point guard, I would put Tyler Kolek out of Marquette. I would have him be the backup this year. Deuce is not a point guard. Campaign is more of a scoring guard. I think it's time for Tyler to come in there and show that he can run the show. But the situation with that, let's get the Knicks up on the screen. The situation and the issue, New York Knicks. No, that's IG. I can't go to IG. Try to get can't go to Facebook either. That throws off some of the streaming. I need the 26 next. I can just go to ESPN. What am I doing? All sorts of production fun today. Doing this, I'm doing that. I can just head back to where we started. All right, let's pull the Knicks up. Okay, in terms of our backup point guard, for me, it's this young man here, Tyler Kolek. Campaign is a bucket. Can use him. Again, this team is stacked. All right, but if we're talking about point guard, run the team, that's my only, Campaign is a guy that, he's a run and gun player. Okay. And now the other elephant in the room, that has to be talked about. And, because again, Tom Thibodeau somehow he's, he's burning these guys out, and he's playing them all these minutes. And God forbid a team learn how to play together when they just got together. They're starting five, and their starting five played 200 more minutes together than any other starting five. I mean, oh my goodness, the lack of compassion that this man would have putting a group together that's never played together and is expected to compete for a championship. Why would he ever do something so grueling and borderline cruel? As we talked about the Barkley Marathons yesterday, the endurance man. The reason is because they needed to build continuity, which was going to pay itself off in the playoffs, which it did as they knocked off the defending NBA champion Boston Celtics. People forgot about that real quick. And who stood tall, down 20 on the road, and battled all the way back to win those games against a dynastic and defending NBA champions? That's right, that starting five. La Cosa Nova. Everybody out there with your load management foolishness. Talking, oh my goodness, on their padded seats, with their 5-minute commercial breaks every 3 seconds. How can you do this? You're burning these players out. Where else would you rather be, kids? In the mix, in the NBA playoffs, on the road, in the arena, quote unquote. Obviously, they're in the arena because it's an arena. Battling it out, getting the job done. Players want to hoop. And I don't know when it became a crime to let your guys cook. Yeah, Karl-Anthony Towns can get a blow. Let's bring in Mitch Rob. Or Hart can get a blow. Let's bring in, But Pat Riley's the one that said play 8, dress 8, play 7, trust 6. And now Pat Riley doesn't know what he's talking about. Indiana was scorching hot. They stole game 1. That set the whole series asunder. And then the outside noise, which I'll refer to now as outside idiocy, wouldn't let a general do his thing. Yes, Mikal Bridges should have been on the ball a bit more to initiate the offense. I will concede that. Let somebody other than Jalen Brunson initiate offense. And that other person is not Josh Hart. So offensively, I will concede. There were certain instances where the Knicks lacked, Tom Thibodeau lacked innovation or audibles, if you will. I'm sure there's plenty audibles in their sets. Those Nova guys pass the ball amongst each other. Because again, all those minutes during the regular season that they had to play together. How could you do this? Making Tom Thibodeau out to be Kathy Bates in Misery. Brutalizing James Conn. That's how people have been talking. That's the continuity that got the Celtics up and out of there, folks. And had Indiana on the ropes before Neesmith goes wild for some threes. And, they took that gut punch. We needed a few different looks offensively. Get Brunson off the ball. Get Bridges on the ball. Okay? And within Tibbs' rotations, yes. I think at times he stuck with the bench. I'm not a huge McBride fan. I like Deuce. I don't love Deuce McBride. Okay, he can shoot the 3, he's cagey. He didn't really do much for me defensively. However, he's strong. I didn't see too many steals. He wasn't out there like, i.e. a Drew Holiday, like disrupting the other team defensively. Giving me some lockdown presence, which you're clearly not getting from Brunson. And if McBride is not going to hit the 3, and he's not giving you lockdown defense, then he can go back to the bench and we can just bring Brunson back in. Playing those AI minutes, those 38, 39, 40 minutes that he's built for. Never mind who his dad is, where he played in college. The Costa Nova guys are built for it. The last OG is built for it. Karl-Anthony Towns, he's got to find himself a bit. Okay? Duly noted. He gets lost in the sauce and he's just, okay, he's been a little off in recent years. It is what it is. So that is the catch-22 because he's also your highest paid player by far. So, and he's off the reservation at times. The Knicks stuck to their guns, stuck to the short rotation, innovated offensively, conversation over. But you see, folks, as I continue with this Knicks tirade, also a part of what I'm saying, that Mike Brown this is now what he's inherited. When you're playing against Rick Carlisle, an elite coach, I've been on Rick Carlisle. You can go back, check the receipts. Okay. That goes toe to toe with other elite coaches, i.e., Kenny Atkinson, i.e., Tom Thibodeau. What you can't get around, whether it's Tibbs, whether it's Mike Brown, whether it's Pat Riley, whether it's Greg Pop, what you can't get around is, if you're going to have, particularly Cat, but also Brunson, because they're going to post Brunson. If you're going to have those two guys on the court with an elite and innovative coach that's going to continually scheme up possessions to attack those two. So you can have two great wing defenders in OG and Bridges out there, and an absolute workhorse in Josh Hart out there. But if Rick Carlisle is just, and you heard the reporting after the doggone series, Knicks players saying, what the heck was Karl-Anthony Towns doing? He was out there going off script when Thibodeau had put together the script in terms of how the team was going to respond to all of these audibles and decoys and this very innovative offense that Rick Carlisle put together. And then you have your highest paid player and your backbone defensively, your center, out here just freestyling. So now all of a sudden that's going to change because Mike Brown is a coach. Cat's not going to be Mike Brown's going to know how to unlock. Oh, I hope so. I hope so. Right? He wasn't unlocked, I don't know. Cat used to be much more of a defensive presence, coming from Don Bosco in Jersey, playing for Coach Calipari. He used to be. Now, he's, people want to talk about Luka defensively. Don't even get me started on Cat. And all this talk about LeBron to New York, mega deal, trade Cat, and bring him in and he can play the four. Good luck. Good luck with Ayton and Cat in your front court. People want to talk about Luka. There's just no getting around it. You have a very talented team with two defensive liabilities. Brunson because of his height, and Cat because of his he don't give a whatever. He's just out in la la land. And same thing with Anthony Davis. I don't want to play the five, but you're better at the five. Okay. So this is something CP the franchise said. Then the Knicks could have used more Mitch Rob, double bigs. But then again, now you have to so now Cat's going to have to guard a four. He's going to have to guard Siakam. Stop it. That's how he racked up fouls against Indiana. Again, Rick Carlisle scheming that out, and he just got stupid foul after stupid foul after stupid foul after stupid foul. We put Mitch Rob in there to protect the basket. You have to essentially scheme around it, which is a conversation you could have had with Tibbs, bringing somebody for the coaching staff to help with the offense and just scheme. But there's no, and it's only a year. You only gave the man 1 year with Cat. Now I'm coming back off my soapbox now with my point with all of this. I've said what I've said. I'll say it again. Preposterous what you did to Tibbs. Preposterous. I'll go toe-to-toe with anybody. I know it's late. People got to go to, working class heroes out there. We started late. It is what it is. I try to start around 10. We start when we start. You know what I mean? It is what it is. We going. It's Malapalooza. Malapalooza's going down tonight, folks. So Willis has got a spot for the Malapalooza. He's going to be ready. SandCity Sports. We're in the building. Now let's come back to my point with the Knicks for this year in terms of what I see. Because I just see a stacked roster. And, Tibbs, how he get down, 8-man rotation, you want to play, get into the 8-man rotation, period. Get into the 8-man rotation. You want minutes? Make me play you. Got my starting clout. No, I don't want Westbrook. Okay? I appreciate you. I went, yeah. Chris, continuing on. I don't want Westbrook. I said what I said. Here's the reason and what I'm getting to, folks. What it looks like with all of these incoming players and then the returning players. All right, you got Jordan Clarkson. There's your 6-man. Tyler Kolek, backup point guard as far as I'm concerned. Miles McBride, rotational player last year. Campaign, rotational player last year. It's 4. That's 4. Mitch Robb, backup center last year. That's 5. Okay? Landry Shamet is 6. PJ Tucker, whatever he's doing, is he locker room guy? Does he ever intend to play? Who knows? So we got 6 without PJ Tucker, 7 with Yabusele. So that's 12 players, not including Precious. Okay? We leave out Precious. We leave out DeLon Wright. We leave out PJ Tucker. You got 12 players who contributed last year or are coming in and contribute. Mike Brown looked like he's coming in to instill his offense, his up-tempo offense. Run and gun, get up the floor, and get guys in space and get them attacking. Here's the thing for me. That's what you got all of these players, so you're going to play them, or are you going to play, are you going to do like a bench mob and the starters will play a more pace, because Brunson's not a sprint. Brunson is not, and you know what I mean? Is there a difference, folks? I'm not going to say it. I was just going to say what, Is there a difference between Jalen Brunson and De'Aaron Fox and how they play? Is there a difference? Their styles and what they're effective in? De'Aaron Fox is that 7 seconds or less, sprint up the court, get to that, hash mark where I'm bearing down in the 3-point line and force this man to a decision. Either I'm going to blow right past you, I'm going to attack and step. I'm going to give you the step back, but De'Aaron Fox is coming downhill in the early offense to crack the paint and start the blender. He wants to put that defender immediately to a decision. All right, are you gonna double? I'm gonna kick it to Malik. I'm gonna skip it to Sabonis. I'm gonna give it to, I forget the young rookie that they had, second-year guy that's solid, 6'8", 6'9" kid out of wherever the heck he was out of. Keegan Murray, right? But I'm looking for the early offense. To your point about Westbrook, that's another mouth to feed. I just gave you 12 and then 15 if you include guys that had some sort of role, but then they're not even in the top 12. So then Westbrook, now that's 16 guys. Mike Brown looks like he's going in a Orlando Magic direction. Meaning Jamal Murray, the Magic, Orlando, they split time. Cole Anthony plays this much, Jalen Suggs plays that much. This Wagner brother plays this much, the other Wagner brother plays that much. Okay, it works for Orlando, clearly. Now they've moved some pieces around. So, all right, we got rid of Cole Anthony. Now Jalen Suggs can cook a little bit more. We bring in Bane. Bane's not going to be playing, Bane's not going to, you don't bring in Bane to sit him on the, to play him 28 minutes. He's got to play 33, 4, 5, 6, 7 minutes. So their rosters, where a more, to my view, a roster where you go about 8 deep, maybe 9, but your starter's going to play 33, 34 minutes. 33, 34, 35 minutes. Knicks roster looks like the starters are going to be playing 30. Right? If I'm going to be getting, if I'm really going to bring Jordan Clarkson in the game to cook. So that's another thing. In Tibbs' offense, which was effective and worked, by the way. Okay? So when Brunson would go to the bench to take his rest, or, when Brunson would have a load management game, which is completely acceptable because Brunson needs load management games, Cat need load management games, and the last OG need load management games. You can throw in Mitchell, who was hurt, but you know what I mean? These are all guys that where load management works. The Nova guys, the other Nova guys, Mikal Bridges, Iron Man, Josh Hart, I'm showing up to work every day. But when Brunson would sit out, folks, when Brunson would sit out, check to see what's going on. Brother official just checking in. I appreciate that. Brotherhood of Officials. What's my point? So when Brunson was out and Kolek would get his minutes, all this, he doesn't give people. No. When we load manage one guy, the next guy will campaign. Like it was more campaign this year. Would get his minutes. What offense are we running? Who we running? We running it through Cat now, and vice versa. When Cat's out, then Brunson is there to guide and lead and so all right, we bring in Jordan Clarkson now. Okay, so this is the shift which apparently the Knicks needed. I didn't see a need for this shift. So now Clarkson, when he comes in, he sits, and so he's gonna. All right, so who are you taking out? You're taking Clarkson out, so that means now Bridges is gonna sit, or maybe you sit hard and go small. Okay, but so when Clarkson comes in the game, it's understood he's getting the rock. He's not coming in the game to set screens for Brunson and then go flare. No. He's coming in to cook. Right? Okay, so Brunson, your usage, which you're used to, clutch player of the year, you're taking a step. We're taking a step back from that now. I'm saying they're structural things that are taking place with the Knicks team vis-a-vis Mike Brown, how he probably wants to play, which is a faster tempo, and then how deep he wants to go into his bench, which people now all of a sudden, that's just going to be the panacea. I don't think so. I don't think so. Instead of going 8 deep, we want to go 11 deep, 12 deep. Okay? And all right, now this guy is going to, we're going to bring in Clarkson's going to be playing with Kolek, who's going to be playing. Okay. Like on the face of it, it might seem, okay, and we're going to give these guys the experience that they need. So they're essentially, the Knicks are going to adapt and try to build their roster similar to Indiana. Right? You got Halliburton. He's going to play his time, but then he's going to sit for a while. And he's going to sit for a minute. And McConnell's going to come in and do his thing. Right? And Spicy P is going to sit for a while. Because we got to build up Mr. Benedict Mathurin. Right? Okay. That's what the people that were storming the gates about Tibbs wanted. We'll see how it works. We'll see how it works. Because I know, basketball person, that's just me. And again, the core guys, you know, we didn't see, and Brunson, never mind his dad was on the team. There's nothing beyond his dad being on the team. Brunson knew Tibbs had a big part about him being clutch player of the year. Tibbs had a big part with him starting in the All-Star game. Yeah, that come from Tibbs' system. And Tibbs' management. Okay, never mind how Tibbs has always coached point guards up. Yeah. Tyler, you know, it's going to take time. You know, he's only in year 2, but he could be a backup. Now, as I had him, you know, in the vision, you know, with my coach Tom Thibodeau, yeah, he was going to be a backup. He was going to get into that top 8 and run the offense when Bridges had to go to the bench for a spell and then come back in the game. But this model appears to be, no. Like, we're going to sit the starters for, you know, they're going from, you know, now 34, 35, 36 down to 30, 31 minutes a game. And we're going to, quote unquote, trust our bench and build them up to have this twofold attack, i.e. the Pacers. Right? And we're gonna so Brunson's gonna be rested and he's gonna be ready for the playoffs. And then, you know, we're not gonna be so stagnant offensively, and we're gonna be able to switch gears and find this other gear. And okay, fine. Now you say all that, but what I just told you is that what was not broke, now you're gonna have to convince those guys who it wasn't broke before. Right? We're one game away from forcing a game 7 and possibly going to the finals, a game 7 at home. So what we're saying with this theory now also is that Brunson, because your usage is going down, your production is going to be going down. Okay, you're giving up that starting job in the All-Star game, Mr. Brunson. Oh yes, you are. And Mr. Catmandu, you're giving up that starting job in the All-Star game too. Oh yes, you are. Oh yes, you are. Never mind the fact that Bane has come to the East. Never mind the fact that Paolo's about to be healthy. Never mind the fact that Tatum is injured. Your usage is going down. Okay? Because apparently you didn't want to play basketball. You wanted to sit on the bench and observe basketball. That's why you came from Minnesota to the New York Knicks. To split time with the Yabuselis and the Mitchell Robinsons and the whoever else is of the world. That's why you came here, to split time. Even Steven, YMCA style. As you can see, folks, I'll have none of it. None. Zero. You can say it's because I'm tied to Tibbs. No. It's because I'm tied to what works. How many times did Miami's Heat have a 7, 6, 8 seed and make the NBA Finals? We know they did it to the Boston Celtics. Was Eric Spoelstra worried about playing the 9th, 10th, and 11th man when the Heat cooked the Celtics without Tyler Hero? Or did he have his Spartan lineup with Jimmy, with Bam, with Strus? Forget the dude. I think he Spanish fellow. I don't know his background. I don't want to speak for his background. Had the fade. His name will come to my mind. Nobody criticizes or talks about Spoelstra's short rotation when it's money time with guys that just go out there and get the job done. I didn't hear anybody crying about the minutes that Bam or Strus or Gabe Vincent and the others were playing when they were cooking the Celtics. Martin, right, thank you. No. They just went out there, mano y mano. And by the way, these are a lot of guys drafted second round, undrafted. You want to tell me they want to split time? Or they want to showcase so they can get paid? You want to tell me that iHeart wanted to split time when Mitchell Robinson was hurt? Or did he want to showcase and get paid? That was my skepticism. Yeah, Dragic. Another one. Dragic coming from Phoenix where he was a backup behind Steve Nash all those years. No, I want to play. I want to show what I can do. Brunson, we act like he was the man in Dallas. Was there a legend there? A Luka legend that he was behind? Okay, now I come to the Knicks. Now I'm going to show you what I can do. Okay? But that was not good enough for a lot of people. I will concede certain things offensively with a bit of stagnation and having Brunson on the ball when you have Mikal Bridges, who you gave 5+ draft picks for. He can initiate some offense off the bounce. I'll concede all that. Nobody's solving the enigma that is Karl-Anthony Towns defensively. If Mike Brown can do it, Coach of the Year. Congratulations. I don't see it happening. He's been lost in the sauce defensively for a minute. To the point where sometimes even Rudy couldn't cover up. Still have to work around that, as I've said a number of times. But it seems that the solution for working around that is just putting these guys to the bench and just splitting time and just letting these other guys come in, run free, pace and space, so on and forth. So I've talked a good amount about just culturally and morale-wise why I think it's going to be you're going to have to sell. I don't think it's going to be received. Maybe I'm gloom and doom, whatever. Maybe they want to just run up and down and split time. Maybe that's what they want. Okay, then I'll admit that I'm wrong. I don't see it. So, but trust but verify, all that stuff, we'll see. I'm looking at this Knicks roster. I'm looking at the pickups, and then, it seems like they want to go 9, 10 deep. They want to play, as I said, and let's get this for you on the screen. I got this screen up here. I've been looking at it. They want to play like, let's look at the Magic. We know we got to get some NFL going on. No. I need the regular season stats. Right? Let's look at Orlando. Paolo, who only played half the season, so he's got 34, but he didn't play the whole season. Right? Ragnar, 33. Okay? And then everybody else. So you got 2 guys, and one who didn't played about half the season, another one 2/3 of the season. Your 2 young guys, you're gonna give some extra minutes to? Suggs, top pick, not even playing 30 minutes. Okay? Other Wagner, off the, got to get Anthony Black, 24 minutes. Cole Anthony, lottery pick, 18 minutes. Let's get Wendell Carter, his 26 minutes. Tavius Caldwell Pope, let's get him, low 30s. But, okay, we got to get the Silver, averaging 22. The backup center here started a bunch, 20 minutes. Got it, just a much longer rotation and a collective approach, identity. My rejoinder for that is these are guys that were drafted and developed in this fashion, right? They didn't go from being clutch player of the year, starting on the All-Star game, and then have to play this way. This is the only way that they have played basketball in the NBA, because you got a lot of these guys are rookies and they've only played with the Magic. All right? So they're bought into it, and they, but that's all that they have known. Okay? So we'll see. Not to be, I'm not trying to be the bearer of any bad news, bad whatever, bad vibes. But that's, I just think you're looking at some things structurally that are shifting, that are going to take time to implement. Mike Brown, but there's going to be, in my view, pushback, because for a lot of the guys on the team, the previous way was working for them. And now, strategically, philosophically, you're shifting things. It may work. It may not. But the Knicks, they're going to be expected to make it work to be in the conversation to win the conference, and compete for a championship. I wish them the best, all the best, even though they fired my coach. But I'm just seeing, okay, we did this. It worked up to this point. Now, it's not just, I just feel like they're going to play at a faster pace with more players coming in and out. And it's going to be a work in progress. Okay, moving right along. Let's head over to the NFL. 'Tis the season. And NFL. And some over-unders. I want to take a look at the over-unders in the N.F.C. East. Fantasy football tips. I have a keeper league that I'm in, which was hard hit by injury. So specific, like to your point, fantasy football, I don't have inside, insight, about, okay, this sleeper coming up. I do well. My team, they said I've had these guys So I got Nico Collins in the draft. I had Diggs. I had Kels, who had a down year last year. It's an IDF league, so we got defensive players as well. So for me, it's just been continuity, and then just having your skill players be healthy. I traded Diggs for, this was years ago, Ertz, when Ertz was a big deal and Diggs was still with Minnesota. They wanted to laugh me out of the room, out of the league, but Diggs gets shipped to Buffalo, and the narrative changed drastically. All right. So let's go ahead and we'll get the NFL teams. We'll do the over-unders. Take a look at the preps and who took home the Peach Jam crown, took home the Under Armour crown. Take care of all those things. But let's start in the N.F.C. East. Formerly the N.F.C. Least. Times are changing. I was born by the river. Shout out to Sam Cooke. In a little tent. Oh, and just like the river, been running ever since. NFC East. And our predictions over under wise. Okay, got the Cowboys at 8.5 wins. New sheriff in town. Cowboys are bringing in George Pickens. All right. So let's take a look. Got the Cowboys at 8.5 wins. Let's take a look and see what's going on in Dallas. On the surface of it, I'm saying over. They won 7 last year. Who knows what you're going to get with the Cowboys? Right? Eagles, no. Giants, yes. Chicago, yes. Chicago is supposed to be better. That game is on the road, right? Going from the Dome to the Windy City. But I'll give them even against upstart Bears team that needs to prove it. Green Bay, no. So 2-2 to start. If you have them stealing the game in Chicago, Green Bay has been to Dallas and just lit them up prior. But I say 2-2. Get the win against the Giants, who don't know who they are. Go on the road against a team in Chicago that's building, but you're the Cowboys, so you should get them early as they're building their identity and trying to gain momentum. That's you don't want to play the Bears team mid or late season once they've got it going on. Or maybe those of you are of the mind that they will start fast. Ertz was good in Washington. I mean, he's there with Daniels. He's there with Jaden. Chris, you're on the over. I'm over. But let's just. All right. So Eagles, no. Packers at home, no. Giants, Chicago, all right, 2-2. 3-2 with the Jets, 4-2 with Carolina. Washington, no. 4-3. Denver, no. 4-4. Arizona at home. I got to lean Cowboys. I just don't have confidence in the Cardinals. So 5-4 going into the bye week. Vegas, yes, 6-4. Okay, and now this is the stretch that people are talking about. So you're 6-4 with Vegas. Eagles a second time, no. 6-5. Kansas City, no. 6-6. Detroit, no. 6-7. Minnesota, no. 6-8. Los Angeles, no. 6-9. Washington, no. 6-10. That's tough. So they got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 6 straight games coming out of the bye week after a powder puff in Vegas is just tough. Meaning, if they lose 3 in a row, which, okay, you got 2 straight, the Eagles and Kansas City at home, all right, but still favor both those teams. Then you got to go on the road to Detroit. So let's just say that's 0-3. They got to bounce back and beat Minnesota and the Chargers at home before going on the road to Washington. That's 6 straight games is monstrous. But they lose all 6. Now they're 6-10. 7-10 with the Giants. Oof. Oof. So they're at 8.5. I got to rethink this now. Because that 6-game stretch down at the end. You got a 6-game stretch, and then you finish with the Giants. So, let's come back from the top. Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys. Appreciate Facebook. Folks checking in vis-a-vis Facebook. This is the Cowboys. IG, still rocking with me. It's a tough schedule. And it's a tough division, right? Tough schedule, just tough division. So, essentially, they're going to have to split with the Eagles or the Commanders. Probably the Commanders, right? So, 0-1, 1-1, 2-1. Have them beating the Bears, even though the Bears are supposed to be better. 2-2, Green Bay. Don't see it. 3-2, going to beat the Jets. 4-2, beat the Panthers. 5-2 if they can beat Washington at home. 5-2. Going on the road to Denver. 5-3. Arizona at home. 6-3. On the road at Vegas. 7-3. And now we get into the gauntlet. So 7-3. Eagles at home. Lost. 7-4. Chiefs at home. Lost. 7-5. Detroit on the road. Lost. 7-6. So 7-6. They have to beat one or both of these 2 teams at home, Minnesota or the Rams, to get that 8th win. Washington at home will give Washington that. And then the Giants on the road would be the 9th win. It's close. too close for comfort for me. They'll beat Minnesota. Minnesota was hot last year. They were cooking. Minnesota was cooking. Brian Flores knows his business on the defensive side. McCarthy had his redshirt year. I think McCarthy will come in and he's not going to be lights out, but he can manage the game. And Flores had that defense socking people. So I don't know. It's a home game. And that just goes to the point about the AFC North being lights out and the NFC North is lights out with the Lions, Packers, and Vikings. So that's one of these things. We deal with that on the Cape from a basketball perspective. And by the way, shout out to Keith Middle School, Pride of New Bedford. You know what I mean? You can't really see it. You can see, you know what I mean? Got my Keith Middle School, right? Hey, Keith, stand up. Got my new beige swag on. Had a great year in New Beige. Some challenges, always going to be challenges. But I work with some outstanding people. The students, they were challenging, but the students, they were challenging, but they challenged me. Tough students, These kids, they might give you a little argita. They might give you a little, they had some chutzpah. They did. But a lot of times it was coming from a good place. And they did have that root respect. They respected themselves, and they wanted to do good. Being growing up in a city, it's tough. You're a city, you're exposed to things. And so they had their challenges. We have our challenges as educators, and we just try to make the best, of each day. Be respectful and mindful. There's going to be give on both sides, but I learned a tremendous amount. This was a growth year for me, being in New Beige with the Whalers. Got my Keith swag on. Captains, baby. Right? Yeah, you're going to have to get JJ the ball. But I feel like they're going to, you can't expect. Let's look. We talk about it with. Ooh, that's a good question right there, Chris. Chris, you're speaking my language right now, my friend. You speaking my language. Okay. I don't want to. I'm not going to put it on the. Maybe they might get me anyway. How the YouTube does. Okay, but I gotta put, because I have my music on. You know what I mean? I got my low music. You know what I mean? You asked a lot of Cape Verdeans out my way. Hey, that's my roots, right? I put a little bit because they YouTube coming. Hey, let's put it back on. Put my little. Hey, yes. But Chris, to your point, yeah, man, you speaking my language right now. Yeah, my people. So just to the point, we call New Bedford, but I listen, dear friends of mine that really close friends I got really close with in my fantasy league, and then I just grew up with these guys as well, and then some I've met through the league, and we've become really good friends. My good buddy Mark lives in New Bedford. And New Beige is just something that I don't want to act like because I spent a year there, that I'm loyal to the soil. I travel to New Bedford. I'm obviously, you live on the Cape, you go to New Bedford. A lot of it's just for refereeing and whatnot. But Chris, to your point, there's a really rooted Cape Verdean community in New Bedford. That's just strong. And my great aunt lived there. I still have family that lives in New Bedford. This is like my my great aunts and my aunts or first cousins, however you want to say it. And then I got a chance. I'm fortunate. Got a chance to talk with my great aunt today. Stop by, go over to the house, just to get the family, the family, right? Because my great grandfather was first generation, come from Cape Verde, come from Cape Verde, and so my grandmother was first generation. Okay, mom second generation, and myself third generation. And then so my grandmother just Cape Verdean, mother, father. Then my mom, grandmother's Cape Verdean. Grandfather is from rural Georgia, right? And then so me, like half, mom's Cape Verdean, pops, on the other side, just American, African American. But yes, to the point, it's a beautiful thing. So the Cape Verdean festivals are just wonderful. Like we have Cape Verdean festival in on the Cape in Harwich. That's great. There's a Cape Verdean festival in Onset or Wareham, right? I pass through it every day going to work, right? Because New Bedford it takes about 45, 50 minutes. It's not bad. It's reverse traffic, which is really good because you got to get over the bridge. And so for me, I was leaving. People were coming on the Cape. I'm coming back. People are leaving. So I didn't hit no traffic. But if you're talking about the Cape, and Cape Cod, Onset, Wareham, and then New Bedford, and then even going to Providence, just a rich Cape Verdean tradition, heritage. And one of the things that was really cool for me being because we like to think of ourselves just in Barnstable and then Hyannis as a small city, but we're in the boondocks. Let's keep it 100. We in the boondocks. We in the boonies. You got to cross a bridge to get to us, and then we're all the way hanging off. Everybody, I live in the sub. We're really a rural community that has become more suburban in the last 40, 50 years. If you really talk to people, like the local folks that go back, talk about, my cousin Tim, who's about 10 years older than me, thereabouts, about 10 years, can remember that after Labor Day, like everything on Main Street was closed. All the businesses on Main Street were closed after Labor Day. Like the mall, just like a couple little stores, a little here and there. So if you visit the Cape now, you see our mall on one side. Then we have Festival Plaza on the other side where Bezos came in, built a mega Whole Foods. They're putting in like a bunch of pickleball courts and, XYZ, ABC, movie theater, even though people don't go to the movies like they used to anymore, stadium seats, 12 theaters, right? That's the Cape Cod that I grew up in. Fortunately, very fortunate, where it's like we had year-round life. Like, yes, we're still the Cape, and the further you go, the further out you are, the longer it takes to get to we're still the Cape. But Barnstable, particularly, where a lot of the business is centered, there's things to do there. Now, it's not the same as if you're in like a greater metro area where you can just 15 minutes, you're in the city, and then you come back and okay, now then you can. It's a little bit less than that, but a lot more than it had been historically for those previous generations. That said, Chris, back to your point, what's really nice about Wareham and New Beige that we don't have as much on the Cape, which just like everywhere, you have your gentrification. Cost of everything is just going through the roof, right? A lot of people who had second homes when the pandemic, they're like, why am I sitting in an apartment all day doing nothing? Right? I can't go anywhere. I mean, why am I in an apartment when I have this second house on the, I can get outside, I can enjoy nature, and I don't have. So a lot of those second homes became primary homes. Folks gave up the apartments. Then the whole remote revolution, I don't have to, I don't have to be. So with that, what I'm getting at is that, you go to Wareham, you go to New Beige. I mean, you got them good Cape Verdean restaurants, them good Spanish restaurants. You know what I mean? Those, and we don't have as much of that as we used to. We still got plenty of culture. We got the Brazilian community, which is wonderful. Jamaican American community is wonderful. You know, but specific to Cabo Verde, like Cabo Verde, you know, we don't have. It's there, but it's not what it was. But you go to you go to New Beige, and it's a thing that I enjoyed. You know, learning the culture, which is kind of true to what the Cape used to be. Is that a lot of the families in New Bedford are either second generation or first generation. So I had a meeting, you know, parent teacher meeting, which is always very insightful and informative. You know, we're learning as much as the parents and the students are learning in terms of what we need to do to put them in position to be successful. And you know, my colleague who was you know, he's from Cabo Verde, you know, good guy, was a really good hooper. You know, the woman came in and you know, I thought it was a Spanish accent, but you know, it was Portuguese. I speak Portuguese in Cape Verde, and they were talking, and she was like, "Yeah, you know, the student, you know, we're gonna go." They were going back to Cape Verde to visit family on the islands. So you see a lot of that, you know, the like going to visit Cape Verde, and people from Cape Verde coming back to visit family in New Beige, Wareham, Onset, Cape. It's cool. It's cool. So you touched on something there, Chris. The cultural heritage, the roots, and it's something, you know, because again, I was born in New Jersey, right? I grew up in the tri-state area until 6th grade, so I didn't know much. You know, obviously we visited the Cape and knew the family on the Cape, and had that connection from a very young age. But I was not versed in Cape Verdean culture until we moved here. He's like, you talk, you're black, and I was like, no, I'm Cape Verdean. Cape Verdeans, you know, they tend to be lighter skinned. I don't want to generalize. At times, Cape Verdeans can have a lighter complexion, uh, depending. So he's like, I'm African American. It's like, oh, I'm Cape Verdean. I'm Cape Verdean. It's like, what's that? Similar Cape Verde, for people that don't know. I've been talking all this stuff. Cape Verde's off the coast of West Africa. Cape Verdean Islands are off the coast of West Africa. Okay. Kind of a way to think about it is Napoleon. One way to think about it, he was banished. He was exiled. It's like, we can't kill him. They know that's going to start a revolution. He's too powerful. So we're just going to exile him to the island of Elba, off the coast of Africa. That's right. If you go further down south, you go Elba. Just this one outpost. It's like, no, Napoleon. He's too strong. Distant outpost. That's another thing. As we go over, we're gonna go to Slice of Life. We got a couple more minutes. We'll go to about 2:00, and we'll breeze. We'll take it in from there. But the Cape Verdeans coming to the Cape, working in the fishing industry, in the cranberry. That's second, because they're a maritime country. They're island nation. So they come to the Cape, fishing cod. Go out to New Bedford, the whalers. The port of New Bedford is the largest or most active port in the United States. I didn't realize that till recently. So that maritime tradition, right, is just straight through line. Even though I myself am a landlubber. My good buddy Endicott, he's a fisherman. I listen to his stories. Once we get out of sight of land, ain't got no Wi-Fi. The Mob Deep saves talking about them shook ones. See, that's when I gotta remember that whenever you have moments of, I get I can't stand so-and-so. So, I get my feelings. Who do they think that they are? Talk to me like that. Crazy. Which you got to defend yourself. You can't let people push you around. That's one part of it. But the other side of it is, if you really bout it, if you're really tough, talk about these fishermen. My buddy Endicott was telling me as we get in a slice of life, he's out there in northern Maine fishing. So I was asking her, I was like, so, like you're fishing. I was like, so you're, it's like, how far do you go from the shore, right? How far do you travel out from the shore? And he's like, we basically travel for 3 or 4 days until we got to get to where we're fishing. And then we put our nets down, then we go. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, we're like 100 miles in the ocean, man. Like, we're not, just cruising along. Like, we're going out there to get it. Like, we are out there. Gulf of Maine, middle of winter, getting it. I was like, you know something? I think I don't need to take no anger management classes. That done taken all the anger and replaced it with all kind of fear, good fear. I was like, what? But he's good dude. A lot of good stories about being out there, just getting it done. So, land lover like me, I learned quite a few things. All right, let's go over to Slice of Life. We got a couple things we got to get to. We got a couple things to get to in the Slice of Life. Shout out to Pete's Jam. The championship, we're going to report on the champion. You asked me good questions about my Cape Verde roots. But Pete's Jam was going on. Concluded today with the championship. This is what it's all about, folks. Bradley Beal. I mean, the stars of today and the stars of tomorrow. Give him that shoulder shake. I love it. Creating the contact. Number 4, who he... I'll that play right there, number 4, he's a top-rated player in his own right. His name escapes me. Got bullied. You want your rankings? You want your NIL? Go get it. Go get it. Talk to me about politics or woulda, coulda, shoulda. You want the rankings and go out there and get it, young man. Pete's Jam. The height of the summer. Speaking of July. So we right on time and on target right now. We right on time and on target right now. Speaking of going and getting it. Yeah, that's 6th man of the year. This is all on the Cape, by the way. His fiance, now wife, they live in the Harwich, Chatham area. That's Monomoy High School. That's in Harwich. Right across the street where we play Summer League. All of my carpets, check the house, I walk on clouds. As soon as I get out this work, I'm out the door, I'm in and out, I'm in and out. Girl, something that breaks just like a perk, I'm in her mouth. But it opens my turf, I got out the dirt, got no doubt. When it keep coming and coming, saving the winter, this summer we wildin'. Yeah, he's trying to get another 6th man of the year. Monomoy High School, right here on the Cape. I've mentioned it before, a really cool guy, gracious in the community. 6th man of the year.
This shit won't stop. I told you time and time again that we won't stop. Making show by show, I'm trying to triple and double the pie.
What?
For at least 6 feet a show or more for here on now. Chasing health and wealth, not clout. Baddies under my belt, I feel like a chef on Mr. Child. Haven't gone no streets, but I spend G's whenever I browse. Mink on all of my carpets at the house, I walk on cloud. Soon as I get out this work, I'm out the door, I'm in and out, I'm in and out. Every girl slapping and break just like a perk, I'm in her mouth. But it opens my turf, I got out the dirt, I no doubt. And keep coming and coming, saving the winter this summer, we wildin'.
Yes, sir. 6th man of the year out there getting it. Okay. Gonna shift gears. Gonna take a look in the world of business, talk basketball. Gonna get back to Peach Jam in terms of the champions. The grind don't stop, right? He's here, summertime, living his good, Cape Cod. No. I got to get that next 6th man of the year. Shout out to Peyton Pritchard. I saw this gentleman on the Breakfast Club. Shout out to the Breakfast Club. 35-year-old CEO. This guy is incredible. Took Red Lobster, put it back on the map. Just a quick clip there. But that gentleman, let me get his name. They didn't put it there. Damola Adamulekun. Damola Adamulekun. Apologize in advance for the pronunciation. But 35 years old, CEO, took Red Lobster out of bankruptcy and got him back right. We're staying in terms of business. Little business talk.
% of all luxury goods are purchased by poor and struggling people who are aspirationally connected. I'm gonna do a whole podcast on why how boring is actually very smart, sexy, and cool, and important. And also I'm gonna do a straight talk on why I dress so simply. Now there may be some following me, but I dress very simply, and oftentimes I'm black. The shortcut on that is I don't spend any time worrying about what I'm going to wear. I consider my time on my mind. And this is what's up with these jets. I tried to explain this before. A jet is not a flex factor. It's a time factor. So when you see somebody in a private jet, as this guy explains, there are commercial airlines deal with 500 airports. Private airlines, private aircraft carriers, private airlines, private planes can go to 5,000 airports versus 500. And it's much more elegant the process of going in, getting on, getting off, and getting about your business. Because it's private, they already know who you are. It's public, commercial airport right now. You got to know who you are. It's public. It's you with everybody else. Security. You got security concerns. You got to go through the lines. You got to deal with, your time is not the primary asset here. It's process. And of course, there are flight delays, and then you got to get a rental car. Whatever.
I got it.
And I found a blend of all that the way I travel. So I can fly commercial and do it pretty efficiently. But people who fly private, they're trying to save time. They're trying to get to a couple of their businesses, a couple of corporations, key point here, a couple of corporations' sites in one day. have substantive meetings, get there quickly from one of the 5,000 airports, not 500, they're closer, faster. You're industrial centers, by the way. And they want to get home by dinner or be with their family. Here's a very important point. 90%, maybe 95% of these jets are not paid for by individuals. Like I got that number, but I know it's above 90. They're sponsored by corporations, they're owned by corporations. And they're used by the CEO, the founder, to get to efficiently where they're going on business. None of this is about flexing. None of this is about looking cool. There's no parties in these jets, right? It's about purpose. There's no party. It's about purpose. A lot of times when we see us on private jets, or what we think is their jet, oftentimes that's just a social media, prop situation. But you see us on jets, we're blinged out. It's champagne everywhere. It's partying, girls, the jet's orange or something. You got somebody paying for it, cash, right? That they're paying out of their pocket. That's the wrong way to do it. First of all, it's on purpose. It's flexing. Or also, you shouldn't be paying for a business jet out of your W-2 income. Out of your contract, or your check. You shouldn't be cash flowing a jet, right? I had a chance to be on a jet yesterday, 2 days ago, because we had some flight issues. And
we'll leave it there. Private jets, champagne campaign, it's paid for by the company versus for the music video. Sports and business. Another clip.
They know me. I know some of y'all from 707. Played at LSU from 97 to 2001. So I wanted to come to share a little message with y'all of what it means here. I'm originally from Miami, Florida. Came here in 97 to go to school and stayed here. So when you sign in and you come on board with this family, a lot of you guys are from the state of Louisiana, from here. And that's even a bigger factor because when you're here, you see all the resources that they have for you. The resources, what you're going to take. Right, the resources, what you're going to do when you're done with football. I played in the NFL for 6 years, 2 Super Bowls, and a plethora of everything in Europe. But football is this big. In the grand scheme of your life, right, it's this big. So if you're here now, you do this, most of you guys go to the league, whatever you need to hope all you guys become Hall of Famers. And if you're Hall of Famer, that's another 12, 15 years that you plan to become that, right? And you get out. My name is Rave, you know me. I know some of y'all from 707. Played at LSU from 97. You get out. I'm 46 years old right now. I finished playing when I was 35, right? And so look how much life I have left. So that's what you want to do. With everything that you're going through, all the money, NIL, think about it. Don't think about it from the perspective of a kid that's coming to this and being squandered. Think about your parents. Think about who does not have the opportunity that you're going to have. Set yourself up. Set yourself up for the future. All this stuff that's going on with you. Listen, when I got in the league, I used to have $10,000 card signings, blew it off. Right? I was young. I'm going to go wild. I'm going to ball. I'm going to do whatever. Go to the club. Whatever I want to do at the time. That ain't that mindset you want to have. You want to have a mindset that you guys have. Surround yourself with big fella. What's up with you, baby? Surround yourself with people that are like you. You understand what I'm saying? Understand this too. Some people you're going to have to cut off. Some people you're going to have to let fall to the wayside. Just like you have been if you get out. I'm 46 years old right now. Finished playing. Just like you have been as you've been growing, right? As you've been growing, some of your friends ain't your friends no more. For whatever reason. The same way as you accept. As you guys go to school, get around people that are doing the right thing. When you go to college, get that one vet. Tell you what they told me when I came in the league. Get that one vet that you see doing it the right way and been in the league for 12 years. So what's going to do? Whatever he's been doing, try to mimic and pattern that. That's going to keep you in the league for 10 years and making that money. That's all I wanted to share with y'all today, man. I appreciate y'all having me. What up, baby? Good.
Can I have everybody?
Just like
So there's a through line right there in the previous, just talking in the macro, right? The jet set life and the perception of it versus the reality of it. You know, the wealthy, how they use it to conduct business and be home by dinner. The rich, right? Chris Rock talked about the difference between rich and wealthy. Bill Gates, wealthy. You know, LeBron, others, rich. Yeah, it's to conduct business and to get to where I need to go. And if I'm Roger Goodell and I have it in my contract that I have a private jet for life because I'm the commissioner of the most profitable league on the planet, then I can use it, you know. But it's all that Roger Goodell deal, that private jet that some coaches get in order to lure them to universities. I'm thinking about Lane Kiffin over there at USC. Yeah, that's on the company's dime. You know, different than a lot of rich folks. So he makes that point. And then right here, where this is very telling, is that, and the two, how they converge, because clearly NFL, shortest careers period, 3 years. But now in the age of NIL, where these high school kids are getting hundreds of thousands of dollars, college kids are getting millions of dollars, and you're going to NFL, very difficult. You see, you know, some kids looking at them, and it's kind of, you know, because honestly, I'm 16 years old with $50,000 in my pocket. In terms of the NIL that's being thrown at these top players, which they can, of course, now receive in high school. You gave me $50,000 at 16, and all I have to do is play the sport that I love, and you're going to talk to me about a 401k? What? You're going to talk to me about diversifying my portfolio? Who? But those are the conversations that must be had with all of these teenage millionaires, or else they're going to end up in a similar place. This gentleman talking about, previous gentleman talking about, you're just going to burn through all of that with luxury spending. 75% of luxury spending, myself included, from the non-rich. Now, I mean, I got my, you know, this is a lot of my stuff hand me down, but hey, you know, it look good. So this is the brave new world we're living in. As much as we need to talk about, you know, corrections that will make college sports better, i.e. the transfer portal and getting that in line where you have to sit out a year, okay? And the through line, the symmetry between being paid by the university and the NIL, two different revenue streams for the players. It has to be looked at, examined, understood, improved. This reality of 15, 16, 17, 18, 19-year-olds walking around with tens, hundreds, and millions of dollars. Okay? Right? There's a reason that credit cards are banned on some college campuses. You know, not put it, you know, but they're banned because you cannot give these individuals access to, you know, funds, resource they just don't understand. Never mind your student loan debt and all these other things. No, that's a recipe that's not going to be for the success. Appreciate you, Benito. We're getting ready for Malapalooza, no doubt. Gonna a couple more clips and then we're gonna go over.
Every single day figures out a way to make good for themselves in this society. Hustlers, anybody who has the drive to make something happen for himself. Just so happened for us being in the street, hustlers meant that we had to find a different way because there were no jobs available. You know, the school system was shot. You know, so we had to hustle to find a different way to make means for ourselves. The hustler is anybody that gets up every single day and figures out a way to make good for themselves.
Quick clip. Jay-Z. Talk about the grind. I would push back a bit on the school systems. There's a number of good schools in New York, but to his point, not in every neighborhood. You know, you're gonna have to take a connecting bus in here and there on the third. But the mindset to get up and work, right? Be positive, be productive, and work. All right, we'll conclude again on the business side of it.
Where would you start today to build that?
You have to start with a vision.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have a clear vision of what it is you want to accomplish. Again, for us, it was bring out the Michael Jordan in everyone.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to have a clear vision of like, this is what I want to be. If I'm looking at this down the line, this is what I want to accomplish. And then I think it's identifying your consumer. Who is it that I'm trying to connect with? Who is it that I want to, who's my customer? Who is it that I want to connect with? And I think you have to identify that as sharply as you possibly can. And you got to be as clear as you can. Because if you're trying to be everything to everybody, you end up being nothing to everybody. So you got to have a clear cut who you're, especially when you're first starting. As you grow, you can broaden that. But when you're first starting, you got to have a clear cut picture of who your consumer, who your target consumer is. And then you got to try to learn as much about them as possible and make sure that everything you do is focused around that core consumer.
Now, for anybody who wants to start their own brand, where would you start today to build that?
Larry Miller, Jordan Brand. Again, Michael. Okay, Nike, you're doing what you're doing. I need to have my own for myself. And we know what it is to this day. That Jordan emblem, logo, shoes, apparel. People stand outside 2-3 in the morning to get it. Turn around, pass it off on eBay, and make the profit from there. So some sports, some business, the intersection therein. And there's certainly always much to discuss and much to learn and grow from, right? Because you want people to be successful, not in the short term, but in the long term. Yes, sir. We have arrived at this point. Thank you so much for tuning in. SandCity.